early.
Oh.
3 minutes. That's permissible, fashionably on time. Upstairs, it looks like there is a hurricane. Only Hari has to take care of all those
What
things.
happened, Swamiji?
What happened?
Yeah.
What did not happen?
What did not
That's easier to tell.
Okay.
All those things that you
Yes.
carried, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all over the apartment.
Oh my God.
Ah,
Along with some friends.
friends are not there now. But all those things from the suitcase. Yeah,
Okay, what?
what to do?
What to do?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you what to do, Swamiji.
Put it back in the suitcase.
Swamiji, indeed, I was going to ask if we can like reorganize the
Yeah.
cupboards or something.
Yeah, do
or
it. Do it.
something.
Do it. Yes,
And
please
I don't
do
know
it.
if there are things that can go away or
Do it. Just look and do it.
just do it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. In fact, you had asked me, can I set everything nicely? I said yes.
Oh,
But I think anybody would have got overwhelmed when they unpacked the suitcase, and so
there wasn't a place to.
that's what
put
I'm
them,
saying.
Swamiji.
Anybody would have got overwhelmed. So I understand. Yeah, but place is there. You have to what should I say?
Creativity.
Look for it, or you have to make it. I'll show you some spaces,
Okay.
and you can just do it.
Okay.
Mm. Thank you. Where have we stopped in Gita?
62.
Finished 61.
61?
Finished.
61, yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh, and the blue.
Hmm?
Yes, that's what I was saying to Ram Given. It's not blue. Why did he call this a blue silver? I'll think about that. Someone called Neer Swamiji.
Neer, yeah.
N-I-R.
Yeah.
Pranam Swamiji. Hope the flight was easy. Samya is sending her pranams.
Pranams. Yes, namaste Neer, and happy to see you. And yes, the flight was very nice, very easy. Everything went as planned. And then, what else? Yeah. Tell Soumya that we are all, not just me, but all of us are saying hello. All of us are saying hello, and you are leaving.
Mike Swamiji.
You are leaving, I think, day after tomorrow. So safe travels for you also. Those of you who are signed in as guest 2, guest 3, that's okay. But you can sign in with your name so that I know who you are and everybody else also knows. Yeah. Namaste Sri Ram. Nice to see you. Om.
Is it? Okay. I didn't do it. So.
This is the Gita class, I hope. Yes. Okay. Hello. Still going strong, I see. Oh yeah, I had the bookmark here. Perfect. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Jasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now we are beginning a new section in the Bhagavad Gita, in the chapter 2. Up till now we have seen, what have we seen? We have seen the qualities of the person, right? What kind of a person? The one who is a jnani, and the one who is without longing, the one who is free of all kinds of confusion regarding the Atma. And this section, it's not just a completely different section, it's related, but this is the typical Upanishadic way of what? Of saying that on the one hand this is there, and if this is not there, on the other hand, what happens? The Upanishad always gives the knowledge in transformative pairs, in dyads. In the good case scenario and the worst case scenario. So the best case scenario is what? You become a jnani and you are dukkheshu anudvigna manaha. Where the antahkarana is not vichalita, stirred up. Yeah. Stirred up by what? What else? One's own ragadveshas, other people's ragadveshas. Acting upon one is not stirred up. And elsewhere the same thing is going to be pointed out, that the jnani guruna api dukkhena na vichalyayate, is not stirred up by even the biggest disturbance. Dukkha here, sorrow, disturbance. So then the question arises, who is the one who is stirred up? So this section is talking about the jnani alone, but from the standpoint of what are the costs of not gaining this knowledge, what happens if one gets complacent, or what happens in the absence of the exposure to this knowledge, how the mind generally works in the not jnani but ajnani. So why is the ajnani brought into the jnani section? To motivate the people who are studying. Protsahanartham, in order to motivate, we just, this is the Upanishad's way of giving both sides, so that you can choose. And if one says, I would rather continue to be an ajnani, quickly we have to read these verses. So that we don't make that mistake ever. Because if this is a very costly mistake. And what happens is that there is various things we can do on the level of the mind and on the level of managing the anger, managing the desires. We can't call it control, because the more you control, the more out of control it gets. And so it's more of a management. Even in the technical corporate parlance, what do they say? Anger management. They don't say anger control. Because as soon as they say that, a few people will get angry at that term. Who are you to control my anger? And so, but management shows a certain agency from within and a desire to change, and it acknowledges the helplessness and the force of these emotions, that as though take away the mind from the teaching, and in fact take away oneself from the teaching. It acknowledges the helplessness, but at the same time it respects that this this helplessness is there. It doesn't try to gloss over the helplessness, and it puts it in perspective. So the next few verses shows a trajectory of what happens to the best of the people in the worst of situations, because that's what life is all about. to the best of the people in the worst of situations, what can possibly happen. And the 61st verse we had already seen, yatato hi api, not the 60th one, we had already seen, yatato hi api kaunteya, even though somebody is, really trying, purushasya vipaschitaha, the one who is interested in knowledge continues to try, what happens? Indriyani pramadhini. Pramadhini means these fallible indriyas. The fallible indriyas, which are already turbulent, and what are they? Haranti prasabham, by force as it were, they snatch the mind away from its focus on the truth of oneself. Haranti prasabham, by force, what? Manaha. So we had seen that, and then he concludes that basically any kind of what effort is incomplete without Ishvara's presence. What do you mean is incomplete without Ishvara's presence? Incomplete without Ishvara's presence means without invoking Bhagavan's grace. Because even for having, even for this path, one needs a lot of blessings and grace, and so have to have Bhagavan's grace, and without involving me, Lord Krishna says, you can kiss the pursuit of this knowledge goodbye. And vashehi tasya indriyani tasya yasya indriyani. So unless and until the organs and the sense organs, including the mind, are not managed, the knowledge doesn't abide. Then we see the opposite scenario. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha, Sangasteshu pajayate, Sangat sanjayate kamaha, Kamat krodho bhijayate, Krodhat bhavati sammohaha, Sammohat smriti vibhramaha, Smriti bhramshad buddhinashaha, Buddhinashat pranashyati. And this is the downward spiral into the vortex of nasha, destruction. So these two verses go together because they have a certain trajectory of all the things that are spiraling downwards. So first it starts off very innocently through what? Dhyanam. Oh, meditation? Yes, this person is meditating. Nay, contemplating. Oh, on Lord Vishnu? No. On Lord Shiva? No. On the words of the Upanishads? Asango hi ayam purushaha. This Purusha is the most uninvolved, unafflicted one, and that's me. No. Then what is this person meditating on? Vishayas. Yeah. And you know the derivation of the word Vishaya? Vishinoti badhnati iti Vishayaha. Vishinoti means the ties. That which binds is called Vishayaha. Very nice. Vishinoti. And that which binds, like gluten, Yeah. That which binds everything together, and what does it? It has got this sticky, ooey, gooey quality. It's like chewing gum, and like you've seen children take it out of the mouth and then it sticks to the finger, and then they put another finger to take it out, then it sticks to all the fingers of that hand, then they try to use another hand, and before everything is just a sticky mess. What is another word for that? Vishayaha. That which you cannot get rid of, you just keep, or even some grains of rice, you try to see if the grains of rice are cooked. You put your hand in the pot, and then after that you try to get rid of that one grain of rice goes and sticks on this hand, that hand, and then it's just a mess. So Vishayaha here means the objects that attract. This includes people. This includes preoccupation. This includes all kinds of things that just want to catch. And so they are extremely catchy. They are catchy in two ways. One is, you think that it's a small little dalliance, just cha, 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 and I'm going to drop it. But after the third cha, you cannot drop it. So it's catchy in that sense. It's also catchy because not only does it catch you, but it catches all the other people unawares, because there are not just individual Vishayaha, they become cultural preoccupations. One person does it, it becomes catching, everybody does it. So in that sense, it catches you unawares, and you think you're on top of it. And what do you say? I am the one who is managing this. Everybody thinks like this. In the beginning of any kind of a love affair, either with an object or a person, one thinks, I've got a handle on this. This is not going to go out of hand. I'm on top of this. Famous last words, because as you are thinking this, the Vishaya is also quietly thinking this. I have got this fellow in my net. I have completely imprisoned this. So it's like a very interesting tug of war between the source of the attraction and I. But then, so the person is doing dhyanam, meditation. Here, it doesn't mean meditation, it means preoccupation. Yeah, dwelling. Constantly dwelling. Vishayan dhyayan. Dhyayan, present participle, purposely used because it's always preoccupied. Presently preoccupied, continuously preoccupied, therefore present continuous. Dhyai, the verb dhyai plus shatru pratyaya. Shatru means what? Present participle. Sixth case, dhyayatah. So, dhyayatah translates as for the person who is dwelling constantly. And this is what the Panchadashi author, Swami Vidyaranya, considers this, he has a special term in chapter 3, Manorajya. Manorajya means a mental kingdom of all kinds of, what are they called? Not hallucination, daydreaming. Yeah. Fantasies, that's even a better term. A mental kingdom of fantasies. So you go down one road, and of course even in the mind it doesn't end well. So then you take another object, take another one, and keep on opening all the menus, in this mental computer, and keep on opening the old files and keep on dwelling on them and recycling them. And it seems like a very harmless occupation. But both Lord Krishna here and subsequently Swami Vidyaranya in the Panchadashi advise against Manorajya. And there in the Panchadashi, the Purva Pakshi says, Purva Pakshi means this fellow without Shraddha in Vedanta, says, what is your problem? It's my mind, right? And the objects are not really there. It's not that I am thinking about, it's not that I'm actually doing this. I'm not actually robbing a bank and tying up the bank employees and holding them hostage and stealing other people's money. It's not that I'm doing that. But if I get a few moments of, happiness, just thinking about it in my own mind, privately, what is your problem? The bank is not being harmed. Your money is safe. The bank employees are safe. I'm not even going there. I'm, hundreds of miles away from the bank. So what is your problem if I think about this? And it's my mind, my thoughts, I can think about it 50 times a day. What is it to you? This objection comes from the non-Vedantin. And Swami Vidyaranya says, because this is the beginning of your end, your unraveling. This is the beginning of your unraveling. Why? Because that dwelling is not only, going to stay at the level of the dwelling. The dwelling keeps swelling, and then what happens? Soon comes out of the head into the realms of the organs of action. When the hand starts to scratch, itch, you go, oh, well, what's the harm in just visiting the bank and just looking at it? And then soon you start taking notes. Oh, this wall here is falling apart. Possibilities. And then you see somebody else also looking at the bank, loitering, just like you are. And because you are a loiterer, you recognize a co-loiterer immediately. With the immediacy with which you recognize the Atma is a little less, But this, you recognize this good for nothing, riffraff hanging around the bank immediately, because you are also the same riffraff, having these riff and raff thoughts. Yeah. Then immediately a friendship is struck. What kind of a friendship? A very unsteady friendship between two thieves, potential thieves, who have never even met each other, except in the realm of Manorajya they have the same vision. And then what? You see one more person circling around the bank in the car. You recognize a co-loiterer. That person becomes the getaway car. So this way you collect. So now from the realm of dwelling, meditating upon an object constantly to the realm of action is a very mysterious journey. When it happens, you don't know, but it happens in very innocuous, slightly, small, innocent steps. Am I breaking a law by looking at the bank from the other side of the street? No, I just took a few photos. So what? From all angles and sides. And then is it wrong? Tell me, is it illegal, immoral or wrong to go inside and count how many employees are there in each shift? Is it wrong? Of course not. So what law am I breaking? Nothing. So, this is how the dwelling, the fantasizing is accompanied by the rationalizing. The fantasizing is accompanied by the rationalizing. And the rationalizing is the ahankara. Before, when what was there? Samskara. Samskara means karmic impressions, ragadveshas. The brunt force, the whole brunt of all the desires, preferences, prejudices, etc., and longings, they are just in need of an object to focus on. And that object in this example is the bank. You can think of anything. And in case of the bank here, it seems all, each of those things I am analyzing. Each of those things. And I split the action into small micro actions. And then the ahankara kicks in and says, looking at the bank from the other side of the street, not wrong. What law are you breaking? Is it against Samanya Dharma? No. Is it against Vishesha Dharma? No. Is it against Swadharma? No. You're doing it in your free time. You're not taking a holiday from your job and casing the bank. You're just, doing it in your free time. Everybody has a hobby. People My hobby is to take pictures of banks from all angles. Who is it harming? And you see, when the ahankara and the samskara get together, it's a very dangerous thing. Because the samskara is needing a little ride. They are unable to get from place A to place B on their own. They are just sitting there in the mind. They are loaded in the mind. And the ahankara becomes their little getaway car to be able to express themselves. And the ahankara sides them, protects them from what? The buddhi, which says, wait a minute, why are you counting the employees? I just like to count, okay? I like to count. I like mathematics. Now, why are you taking photos of the weakest wall? Why are you doing this? And why are you questioning? And why are you also taking, stock of how many security guards are there and when they change, all these things? This is the buddhi, nishchayatmika buddhi. The buddhi that still has some hope and for which there is still some redemption left. And the buddhi says, wait a minute, what are you doing? And the weak ahankara, not an enlightened ahankara, this ahankara is the one that needs self-knowledge. Otherwise, this is what it's going to do. And the weak ahankara, instead of joining the buddhi, what does it do? Join the manaha and join the ragadveshas. And shield them from the buddhi. Don't give them a hard time. It's like a dysfunctional family. One of the parents is trying to set the children right, and the weak parent, who is very, who is desperate for approval from their offspring, is telling the others, the other partner, you are always hard on the children. Don't do anything to them. So like this, the ahankara shields the longings, and then the more it is shielded, it gives them a shade to grow away from the scorching sunlight of the buddhi, which is bringing their reality into harsh truth that this is not going to lead anywhere, this action is wrong, because all these actions in and of themselves may not be illegal, but the intention and the purport of them is extremely wrong. So this is the conflict within. So therefore, where do I exercise the brake? Where do I curb things? At the level of fantasy. So you don't go till taking a walk around the bank and loitering and looking for fellow riffraff. You don't go that far at all. You stop as soon as the thought arises. What is the thought? I love other people's money. And I don't have enough of it to fulfill all the desires that I want. I want to go on a cruise. I want to, have this. I want to have that. And I want to go here, go there. I have all these adventures. I have to travel. I have a bucket list. I have this list, that list. Endless numbers of things. And what's the money in my bank, which is not much. And what is my earning every month? Just enough to get by. And then the rationalization comes. Why do some people? They are also robbing us. Corporations are robbing us blind. That's why we are in this situation. That's why the minimum wage cannot even be $15 in many states. And in fact, I am a reincarnation of Robbing Hood. Not Robin Hood. Robbing. You have to put a G at the end. Yeah. Robbing Hood. So I take everything into my hands and say, what you can't get by justice, you wrest by force. Just take it. It belongs to you. And then you rationalize. Everything is Brahman. Money is Brahman. I'm just taking some Brahman back. That's all. Somehow, this much Brahman should be with me because, no buddhi is there. That's why. And I'm just taking, this is all resources. And we have to share the resources. The person pontificates and rationalizes. But after the bank heist, you ask them to share those resources. No, this is my hard-earned money, heading to the Bahamas, putting it in a safe account with a secret account number. So, therefore, at the level of dhyanam, you stop. This is one form of meditation not encouraged in the Vedas. Meditating upon or contemplating upon or constantly finding oneself dwelling upon objects of desire that look very small, diminutive and attractive. You think, oh, I'm much bigger than this. This is not going to fulfill me. I just like to think about it because it's fun to think, go here. So what's wrong? I'm doing this mentally. There's nothing wrong at all. The small fact, which is that it belongs to somebody else is none of my business because I'm just thinking about it. So here it says, dhyayataha pumsaha. So pumsaha here for the person who is constantly dwelling on what? Vishayaha. Vishinoti badhnati iti vishayaha. The objects of the raga and dveshas, the longings. Something happens. Teshu means what? Keshu, for what? For the vishayas. Vishayeshu, teshu vishayeshu, sangaha upajayate. Jayate is born, upajayate is intimately born. In the sense of just seeing this intimately. Sangaha teshu means with reference to those objects. Which objects? The ones upon which I am contemplating, fantasizing with reference to that object, sangaha. Sangaha here means the feeling that it is already mine. A hankering. The longing becomes a hankering based on a certain sense of entitlement. Sangaha, the correct translation, the most correct translation of sangaha means that indulging in which I, feel complete and I already feel connected to that, and so therefore indulging in that to which I already feel connected doesn't feel wrong. Sangaha, often translated as attachment, we don't really use the word attachment, or detachment, except to say we are very detached from the word attachment. And we are not attached to the word detachment. So except to say that, we will not use the word because this is partly the problem in common pocketbook Vedantic parlance. You have to be detached. And then already there is a problem of dissociation and disconnection. Where am I? Who am I? I don't feel my body. I'm having an out-of-body experience. This is the problem in the modern times. So we don't need further detachment or disconnection. So therefore, sangaha here means association. So that constant fantasy brings in an association which has some overtones of entitlement. The more you think about it, think about this. The more you think about something, the more entitled you feel to having it. Because the ahankara comes in and starts to rationalize. Sangahateshu upajayate. So first from innocent fantasy, we have gone into a state of a terrible longing. Think about it. Step number 2. Step number 1, innocent, harmless dalliance. Cha cha cha. Step number 2, cha 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 cha. A frenzied, what's its name? Mental pursuit based on the feeling that I can't do without it. Sangaha teshu vishayeshu. Which vishayeshu? The ones that were the object of this dhyanam, this dwelling, this contemplation. Upajayate. Jayate would have been enough. Upajayate means it is intimately felt. Upa samipe. Where is it born? Right where the dhyanam is taking place. Where is the longing born? Right where the fantasy is taking place, right there. So the word upa shows the place where the longing is born. In fact, the fantasy converts itself to longing. Upajayate, the fantasy is transformed into longing. All we see is that the morphing of the fantasy is equal to the birth of the longing. Very beautifully put. Sangaha teshu upajayate. Step number 2. Then what happens? Sangat, this is all the level of pre-desire still. This is just a certain fancy that has taken a foothold in the mind and is now come to be rationalized by the ahankara. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. Next line. Sangat, from this innocent dwelling to the constant longing, one step, and the constant longing gives rise to what? The solidification of the desire. Now I am able to see and acknowledge to myself that robbing a bank is a wonderful idea. Before it was just a fancy, who me, little me is going to rob this huge bank? Come on, it's not a possibility at all, it's just a fancy. But I like to think about it, what's wrong? And I like to go there and watch what's wrong. And now what? Now it seems that to not do it is stupid. Yeah, I have come to the level of seeing that, not doing it is going to be very, very silly because I really think that it's going to be easy and I really, really, really want it. Kamaha. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. That's what happens. Step number 3. Kamaha means the dhridi bhuta. Dhridi bhuta means that which has taken root. The longing which has taken root is called kama. The fancy which has taken root, fancy which bears fruit is called sangha. Sangha which takes root is called kama. Now from the level of kama, it's much harder to convince this person otherwise because the person has already rationalized everything. It's like the alcoholic who says, I can give up drinking anytime. How? People really die from this. It's not easy to give up. No, not others. I can give it up anytime. How do you say that? I say that because I've already given up 25 times. Yeah. See, so easy. Not just once. I've given it up 25 times. So what to talk now? 26th is going to be easier still. So this is the person who has become solidified in the denial. And the kama here is also, this is the very one of the finest examples of ragadvesha psychology and its downward spiral in the Bhagavad Gita. And here, when we say kama, we have to talk about the way in which this has solidified. It's a calcified longing which will definitely justify, the ends justify a scenario where the ends will justify the means. Calcified longing. And so this kama, the person is not going to be dissuaded now. I want it at all costs. Only one thing they overlooked. What was that? Hidden variable. So all these 3 fellows, which 3 fellows?
Our thieves in bed.
Yes, our 3, our thieves. Thick as thieves, this is what it means. So they made friends with each other. And so the getaway car wala was waiting outside on the appointed day, and they had cut the wires, did their homework, done everything. And then they went there, they had a hold-up note, they had a gun, they had ski masks, and they had everything. Only one thing they had not checked. What was that? Their own horoscope. Horoscope. Even the transit, horoscope. One was having bad Rahu, bad news, and then the other one was having, a very bad Venus placement. Bad Venus placement means don't even think of robbing the bank, because Venus means abundance. If the Venus is afflicted or debilitated, abundance goes back to Vishnu. Lakshmi does not belong to you anyway. That's what it is. So, horoscope here means hidden variable was not accounted for. And so what happened? They forgot the gun at home. Yeah. So they had to pretend something else was a gun, a pen, or something like that. They just put a hanky over the pen and were wielding it like this, or a stick they picked up somewhere, a little twig. That didn't get them very far. And then what happened? They were captured. 911 was immediately called, and then they were captured. Then what happened? Kamat krodha abhijayate. They had angry, ferocious. They bit the officers in trying to resist arrest. No gun. What else will they do? They can't shoot. They growled like animals and bit the officers. Resisted arrest. Why? And also they blamed each other because that's what happens. They are not related to one another. They are barely friends. They don't even know each other. So, what did they do? Each one said, this one captured me and brought me. I'm an unwilling accomplice. I'm a hostile accomplice. Because he was threatening me with a gun. Where is the gun? Well, details. I thought this pen was a gun. That's why I came under his spell. And the other one says, he promised me something and instead he brought me here. And so all this angry display of fireworks happened. They were angry at each other, they were angry at the officers, and they were angry at the bank people. If you had nicely handed the money, none of this would have happened to us. So, the anger, Bhagavad Gita says, arises directly out of what? Kama. Kama means the hardened longings. What is the connection between the hardened longing and the anger? When the longing is left longing, that is when the anger comes. When the raga dveshas are not fulfilled, anger comes. So all anger is because raga dveshas are not fulfilled? Yes. Sometimes one says, I'm angry because I didn't get to have my way. That my way is what is the situation. So the ragadveshas, unfulfilled ragadveshas, lead to an outburst of anger. Kamat krodha abhijayate. That's okay, I got a little angry, so what? Everyone gets angry. But we are looking at a particular trajectory of self-destruction. But I thought you just said earlier in the second chapter, self cannot be destroyed. Self cannot be destroyed, but we are talking of that self from the standpoint of the one who is ignorant, who doesn't know that I cannot be destroyed. So if the means of knowing, in terms of a quiet mind is destroyed, what is the use? It's as good as the self, oneself being destroyed. One becomes Atmaha, Atmanam Hanti. Atmaha means the one who is all like committing suicide. So, Krodhat, from the anger, because of the anger, what happens? Bhavati sammohaha. That sam was used even earlier. Sangat, sam plus jayate, sanjayate. Nicely born. Sammohaha nicely deluded. There are two kinds of delusions. One plain delusion and one delusion, with chocolate sauce, nicely deluded. Sammohaha. Sammohaha means here, nicely means completely deluded. Completely deluded. The person is, and stop thinking at this point. Anger does that. Anger is an emotion that one can actually physically sense. Blood pressure goes up, funny sensations start to happen for some people, in the cheeks, in the head, you feel this gushing sensation, the blood pressure is going up, you feel it, and then one feels, sometimes people feel like the deer in the headlights, they are unable to say anything. And after the situation has resolved, then they express everything. In the moment, they are unable to say anything. Whereas certain others, in the moment, they get transformed into a Hawaiian volcano. Yeah, the lava never stops. So, like that. So there are various ways of expressing this anger, but regardless of the kind of expression, depending upon again one's psychology, background, upbringing, etc., regardless of the kind of expression, it is all one stops thinking. So in anger, words are said that one doesn't mean, and the organs of actions act in certain ways that one doesn't want. Even as one is going to cuff another, one keeps thinking, I don't think this is a good idea, but that thought is hijacked. That's why this is sammoha. That thought is even gone, and you do, and then you say, I don't know why I did this. Then you say, I didn't mean to say this, I didn't mean to do this. The tongue is loose, it says whatever it wants, because it wants to give the person a piece of the mind, literally. Which piece of the mind? The dark, uninterrogated, covered in ignorance piece of the mind, full of cobwebs, of grudges in the form of old hanging grudges, and the bats of doubt and despair, flapping about. That piece of the mind I let unleash. Why? Because I couldn't have what I wanted, or something that I didn't want came on my plate. So that anger is what is being talked about here, and its effect on the body and the mind, sammohaha. Sammohaha, in our terms, means derailment. A derangement bordering on derailment. Derailment from what? From what one stands for. From the values and attitudes this sadhaka, this seeker has brought into the situation. And from the kinds of things that this person wants to do. Where are you headed? What is it that you want to do? Who are you? What do you want? And if you are a sadhaka, if you are a Vedantin, then this knowledge is dear to you, and acting against the knowledge is something that has to be looked at, but in the moment one is not capable of any of those things. So that was what? Step number 4?
No, 5.
How 5? Dwelling. Yeah. Dwelling leading to some kind of a, constant longing, and the longing leads to a calcified desire, step number 3, and then the calcified desire leads to anger, step number 4, and then what? The anger leads to delusion. Delusion here means the going away, the departure from the very attitudes, values, and the paths and priorities that one has painstakingly set for oneself. One goes against those very priorities. Delusion is a rank form of self-sabotage. That is what is meant by delusion. So, sangat, so kamat krodhaha abhijayate. Krodhat bhavati what? Kim? Sammohaha. Okay, so what's wrong with delusion? Sammohat smriti vibhramaha. Vibhrama. Brahma means what? Wandering. Yeah. Brahma also is a form of delusion. Wandering. And then Vibhrama means a special kind of wandering in circles. Getting lost. Vibhrama means getting lost. Getting lost. What is getting lost? Smriti. What is Smriti? Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam. That's Smriti? No, no, no. Smriti, that means the works in, that talk about the Veda and Vedanta written by sages. That is called Smriti. Here, Smriti means memory. Yeah. Memory of who I really am. Memory of, although who I really am is not a product of memory, but still, where I'm headed, that's the thing. Who I am on the relative level. This is what I'm committed to. Ahimsa. This is what I really want. This is where I'm going. This is who I want to be. And Adi Shankara says, the person, even all this is forgotten. Adi Shankara says, either here or in some other section similar to this in the Bhagavad Gita, that the person does not even recognize the Guru in the anger. Yeah, Guru napi drohayati. Starts to fire the Guru and says, what kind of a teacher are you? You are fired. The Guru says what? I was never hired in the first place, so it's okay. So gets angry with the teacher, gets angry with the teachings. What do you mean I'm whole? I'm not whole. I'm full of holes. Who are you to tell me I'm whole? Gets angry with the teacher and the teaching and goes away from the knowledge. Smriti vibhramaha. And then what? Smriti bhramshat, brush, to fall. It becomes bhramsh. Don't ask me how, but it is a long sutra. So, brashcha, something, something, something. Yeah, yajaraja, all these things come. Yeah. So then, there is a nasal agama, and so it becomes bhramsh. But again, it loses that in the past passive participle brashtaha. So smriti bhramshat saha brashtaha. Same root. Brush. Not brush. That's what you do in the morning. Bha. Brush. Brush means to fall. So smriti bhramshat, when the memory fails, the fall of the memory, what happens is equal to the fall of the buddhi. Yeah, the buddhi is like a fort. It keeps holding, fighting and fencing and dueling with all these, lower forces. Then finally the buddhi also says, I also am going now. I can't hold the fort by myself. I also crumble down. Buddhi here was what? Was the sole one that had some hope of the person being redeemed. But the buddhi we saw how it was already getting involved in the beginning. What's wrong with roaming around the bank? What's wrong with taking photos? What's wrong with counting the employees? What's wrong with talking to them in a friendly manner and wondering when the next shift comes? Nothing wrong. Already it was rationalizing. Here, it shuts down the person by convincing them that everything else is wrong except the ragadveshas. The only thing, if there is a right in this world, it is these ragadveshas that have been wronged. And that's when the person becomes revengeful, and there is no hope of such a person becoming a jnani. Maybe a bank jnani, but not a Vedanta jnani. Why? Because the person is not available for teaching. Smriti is not there. Smriti means, why? What has brought me here? Why do I need this knowledge? Buddhi also is not there. Who to teach? No one. Buddhinashat kim bhavet? Pranashyati. Prakarshena nashyati. Pranashyati. The person itself is completely, himself, herself is destroyed. If the buddhi goes, the person goes. The only thing that is special about the person is the buddhi. Everything else is just like any other jiva, all the animals. Animals have buddhi, but the buddhi is mostly programmed. It comes under Bhagavan's programming. The human being is special because the buddhi is left unprogrammed. Because there is free will. So one can do what one can override the buddhi. Even though the message comes, Bhagavan's voice comes, you are not doing the right thing. Bhagavan starts to talk, and then Bhagavan is gagged, bound, and thrown in the ditch. And then the mind, the buddhi collapses, and the ego and the mind declare victory and do whatever they want. And when that happens, the person is not available for Vedantic transaction, even if they may be barely available for everyday transactions. Buddhinashat pranashyati. And when this, what happens when this downward trajectory, the downward vortex starts? Two things are of note. One is you can kiss, sthita prajna goodbye. Not sthita prajna, sthita prajnatvam. Inside oneself, you can kiss it goodbye because it ain't happening. If this is your everyday life, the Bhagavad Gita clearly says that, you can't forget sthita prajna, even to sit in a class starts to become difficult. Because all the mind is, banking on the bank. And so, therefore, those preoccupations, starting with the preoccupation, all the way up to the anger, the delusion, etc., one is totally hijacked from Vedanta. So, without Vedanta, you cannot become a sthita prajna, a knower of the self. And so, therefore, this is very, 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 very bad news. Bhashya, only 5 minutes are left. You can just make a little, little inroad. Dhyayatah chintayantah. Adi Shankara clarifies, chintayantah, contemplating what? Vishayan. Vishayan means Shabdadi Vishaya Visheshan. Alochayan, alochayatah. Shabdadi Vishaya Vishayan. Visheshan means the objects of the external worlds of objects. The external world of objects is allowed inside and is internalized in the form of fantasies. That is what is called alochayatah pumsaha purushasya sangaha asakti. So the more you think about it, asakti means inclination and love of the object. Upajayate, we have already seen what does it mean. Upajayate is intimately born. Sangat pritehe, from the association and the love. Sangaha comes from sanj, the verb sanj. Sanjayate, samutpadyate kamaha, trishna, bhoga ichha. That I want to experience this ichha is called trishna. Mama amuna, through this I have to be satisfied. Bhoktavyam. So this desire, ichhayaha vegaha, this pressure. So here the raga dveshas exert a pressure that is very difficult to manage, and the difficult to manage, anger, resultant anger, further entrenches the person in the sense objects and the sensory delight connection. That is what Adi Shankara is saying. So Trishna means a hardened longing. Kamat kutaschit pratihatat. This is what? Kutaschit somehow pratihatat, prati plus han. So pratihatat, kamat, from a killed longing. Krodha abhijayate. Yeah, pratihatat means from a longing that has been attacked and killed, meaning there is no hope of fulfilling it, then one gets angry. Yeah. And then krodhat bhavati sammoha, and sammoha means avivekaha, karya akarya vishayah, aviveka, non-discrimination with regard to karya and akarya. What is karya? That is which is to be done, which is okay to do. Akarya, that which is not okay to do. And we have seen this in our example. Taking photos of the bank, okay to do or not okay to do? Not okay. Why? Because in the context of the stream of longing and the motive and the purport for taking the photos. If you are using the bank as a backdrop and taking a selfie, that's a different thing. Well, it's a nice building, and so I look nice and my friends will look nice. Let's all take a selfie. That's it, so the motive here is important. And so this person in our story is not doing the right thing, but what to do, what is not to be done is karyaha, and akarya vishayah is, there is avivekaha, that is what is called sammoha. Delusion means aviveka with regard to what is to be done and not to be done. Kruddha hi sammudhas san. Here is where it comes. Gurum api akroshati. Akroshati means yells, screams at the teacher. Oh, poor Guru! the sitting duck for the target, the dartboard. The Guru is a dartboard of what? The transference and the resultant anger of the Shishya here. And then what happens here? Kruddha san, being angry. Sammudha means deluded. Gurum api, even the Guru, this is Shishya, this is mother, this is father, this is an elder, all that is ignored. In that moment, they don't even see it. The person yells at the Guru. And then what? Sammohat smriti vibhramaha. Smriti vibhramaha means forgetting everything. It's like a temporary amnesia of one's values, true desires and goals. And then he talks about what is the amnesia from Shastra, Acharya, Upadesha, Ahita, Sanskara Janitayaha Smritehe Vibhramasyat. So, the amnesia, I'll take a few minutes and finish this, okay? Yeah. So, the amnesia is from what? The loss of memory, which is born of the samskaras, means the karmic impressions given by the teacher, by the teachings, and by by the Shastra and the teachings of the Shastra and the Acharya, and they are ahita. Ahita means beneficial samskaras. All the beneficial samskaras born of the teachings of the Shastra and the Acharya are completely forgotten, along with one's own goals and where one is headed. So, janitayaha smritehe vibhramaha syat. So there is a loss of all kinds of focus, priorities, all the true priorities are given up. Bhramshaha. So, even when there is an occasion to remember, that the memory doesn't come back due to aviveka and due to this calcified longing and its pressure to cross dharma. So even the memory of dharma is included here, even though it's not talked about. So because that is what is taught by the Acharya and the Shastra, dharma. Dharma, adharma, viveka is gone. Forget Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka, that's for the ultimate, but even the Dharma Adharma Viveka is not there. Kim Kartavyam, Kim Akartavyam, it is not, there, as the Gita herself will point out later. Kim, Kim Kartavyam, Kim Akartavyam, Kavayo api atra mohitaha. Even the people who can see far into the future are confused about what is to be done and what is not to be done. What to talk of our thug here. Yeah, what to talk of this kind of a person. And then it says, Bhramshah smriti utpatti nimitta praptau anutpattihi, meaning anutpattihi means the forgetting. When smriti utpatti nimitta prapta, meaning that the memory is not recalled even when there is occasion to do so. Yeah, even when there is an occasion to remember, like somebody will say, come on, this is not you. And the Ahankara says, what is it to you? If I want to rob a bank, what is it to you? And the alcoholic will similarly say to the family members, if I want to die of, liver poisoning, what is it to you? And for them it makes complete sense. So even when that person is brought back, so to speak, by saying, look, you have your whole life ahead of you, you wanted to become a singer, doctor, artist, whatever, they are reminded, this is what you wanted to become, and look, you are going down this road. And this is why we are reminding you, because this is not you, and look, this is a poem you wrote, this is the painting you made, and this is the letter you wrote to somebody, and you are such a caring person, and we don't see any of this in you. What is it to you? It's my life. It's my liver. If I want to pickle it in alcohol, I want to preserve it permanently in alcohol, what is it to you? This is how they talk. And then what? It says that anutpattihi, meaning it's not there, even though there is occasion to remember, there is no, they don't care to remember because of this smriti bhramsha. Tatah means after that, what else is left after that? Tatah smriti bhramshat, smritehe bhramshat, what happens? Buddhehe nashah. Karya akarya vishaya viveka yogyata antahkaranasya buddhehe nashah iti uchyate. So the incapacity of the buddhi with regard to the things that are needing to be done and things that are not needing to be done, it is completely gone. Not much to say because it's very clear. And buddhi nashat pranashyati. Tavat means just so. Eva tava devahi purushaha. Until then the person is a human being. Yavat, as long as antahkaranam tadiyam karya akarya vishaya viveka yogyam. So the person is a human being as long as his or her buddhi has the capacity to filter, to sift between what is to be done and what is not to be done. And then what? Tad ayogyatve, when that capacity is compromised, Nashtaha eva purusho bhavati. The person is as good as an animal because as good as destroyed. Tataha, now thereafter, ataha, now what happens? Tasya antakaranasya buddhehe nashat pranashyati. Unable to follow any purushartha. Forget moksha. Artha and kama is also not a pursuit anymore because the person has been, capitalized or hijacked by dharma and completely in the hands of hijacked by adharma and is in the hands of adharma. Purushartha ayogyo bhavati iti artha. So becomes incapable of even artha kama pursuits because dharma is not there. Dharma and adharma are not being even a possibility. So without dharma there is no moksha. And so this is the fall, chutihi, fall from paradise. Yeah. What is the paradise here? A well put together buddhi. Yeah. And then, the rest of it is a tragedy. So we better stop, and then appropriately, somebody said, why Kathopanishad today? Because this is going to be a continuation in just a few minutes of the samsara tree. The bhashya of all the things in the samsara tree to be TBC, to be continued at what time? 5:30. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. So watch out in 20 minutes. Evening puja has been done.